Hey everyone, welcome to Demos with Mish, where we show off the latest and greatest in IBM integration applications. Today, we're going to be demoing the AI-powered low-code integration tool known as App Connect Designer, which is really where a lot of innovation in IBM integration is taking place. So really cool technology. It's able to save you a lot of time when making integrations with this AI mapping feature. And I'm excited to show you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I wanted to do is set some context for what we're trying to achieve today, and really the main challenge we're trying to overcome. So the goal is to try to create integrations in the most efficient manner possible. But when we've polled clients, we've asked, what is stopping them from creating these integrations that they're trying to build? And oftentimes they say that is data mapping. So the truth of the matter is data mapping is difficult. It is the design time task that usually takes the most time, the most manual effort, and the most complexity to achieve when building these flows. So what we're trying to do with the Cloud Pak for integration tooling is to automate that and to make data mapping as easy as possible. What we're able to do with this AI-powered automation is we're able to automatically correlate the different mapping fields from one system to another system and use the machine learning to match those different features when there is an automatic match and generate recommendations when there's not an automatic match, in which way we're able to save time and increase our productivity for our integrators. To make this demo easier, we're going to bring in my good friend Javier, who is a system integrator at the very infamous Steins Corp. To give you a little background, Steins Corp recently acquired another company. And what Steins Corp has tasked Javier with is being able to integrate the two different CRMs that each company was using. Normally, this would be a pretty heavy task for Javier. Javier told me he was a bit stressed about it, but luckily for him, he has IBM Cloud Pak for integration, so this task is going to be no sweat for him. So what are the different steps we're going to take on our side to enable Javier to accomplish his goal of integrating those two CRMs? So the first step is we're going to access our CP4I environment using the Platform Navigator. Next, we're going to connect Salesforce and Insightly CRMs using our low-code integration tooling called App Connect Designer. Next, we're going to map fields with different ranges of confidence. And we'll dive more into this as we go, but there'll be a couple different ranges of confidence. There will be a high level of confidence where maybe the formats of both CRMs will be very similar and we can auto map those different fields, or there'll be a lower mapping confidence where maybe the fields don't exactly line up, but the AI powered tooling can generate a list of recommendations that we can choose from. And then finally, we'll perform data transformation when the field formats do not match. So for instance, maybe the format on our first CRM has the first name abbreviated, whereas the second CRM, we want to spell out the full name. Usually, doing this kind of transformation will require a lot of in-depth, Java coding to accomplish, but with our low-code tooling, that's not an issue. We can just drag and drop different features, and we can do it all within a couple minutes. And then finally, we'll test our flow and make sure that when we call our API, the Salesforce contacts will be seen in Insightly CRM. So with that, let's go ahead and help out Javier and start connecting those two CRMs. When Javier first starts his task of integrating his two CRMs, he's going to log on to the Cloud Pak for integration and be met with this central screen, which is called the Cloud Pak for Integration Platform Navigator. Really, it's the home base for all his integration capabilities. Javier doesn't have to look around on different UIs or different places to find all his capabilities. It's all here in one screen, which is really going to help with efficiency and productivity. So he has different capabilities as part of the Cloud Pak, like API management, tracing, iPaaS, messaging, event streaming, file transfer. But obviously today he's going to stick with the iPaaS capability, the low-code integration tool that is going to be able to connect his two CRMs. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. So normally when creating an integration, Javier would just go to New and then create flows for an API where he could start making an API. Just to save us and Javier some time, I already made a quick template that has some base structure for us that we can start with. So here we're in the designer tooling. This is where we can create all of our API integration flows and manage our connectivity to services and endpoints. So we're going to start with labeling our different parameters. We can go to operations, and these are going to be the different HTTP methods we can use to connect to our API, whether that be GET, POST, PUT. We have several different options here. We're just going to simply do a post contact action for our API. Now we can edit our flow. So like I said, with our API, the tool already knows the base structure of an API, so we don't have to get in the weeds on knowing exactly how an open API specification is going to look like. Right? The API, a tool already knows we're going to have a request, a response, and all we need to do is connect the different apps or data and just put in the different methods we want to use that we're going to interact with our API. So it's very simple. We're going to have a request and a response, and here are going to be the different parameters we inputted initially. And then our response, if you remember, right, we're not going to necessarily require anything as a response here. What we're doing is we're just connecting our two CRMs. So we're just going to have a really dummy response, and that's going to be our ID, which is really going to be the same thing as our request. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and actually add our connections. So one of the key topics of this App Connect Designer is the fact that we have many dozens and dozens of pre-built connectors already in our connector hub for you to use. So normally a integration admin or an integration developer would have to start from scratch and create their connectors, which is a very manual and time-dependent task, right? And it takes a lot of coding, a lot of skills to do. For us, in this App Connect Designer is made for citizen integrators and line of business users to create quick and easy integrations. So we already have the different connectors ready for us to use. We can just simply go in and find the connector and plug it into our flow. So if we look, we have, like I said, dozens and dozens of connectors. We have AWS connectors. We have mail connectors, Google connectors, HTTP connectors, which is especially significant here because we can use this to connect to any of our different SaaS applications we're using. Usually a SaaS application will be able to expose their software using a API, and we can quickly just plug into the API using this connector via HTTP. So very important. We have our IBM software, MQ, for all the IBM integration folks out there. We have Magento for e-commerce, Microsoft Azure, and finally Salesforce. So connecting to Salesforce is so simple. I already have my user credentials in, but all you do is type those in and then find an actual function you want to use. So we're going to go to contacts, and we're going to retrieve contacts. What this is saying is we're going to retrieve the top 10 contacts, and that's what we're going to use for our integration flow. You can change this number to 100, to 1,000 if you wanted to. We're just going to do it 10 to keep the flow simple. So if you might remember, we're taking 10 contacts from Salesforce and putting them into our Insightly CRM. Normally, when we're making an integration like this, you could think in coding terms, you'd have to make a for each loop. What that means is, put contact A from Salesforce and mark that into the Insightly CRM. And then for contact B, take that and put that in Insightly CRM. You just go along the line until you get to 10 items. For here, low-code tool, we have that integration logic that you can just simply access. So we can click the plus, go to Toolbox, and we can find our different integration logic we can use, whether that be an if statement. We have different parsers to change the format of our API, whether that be JSON, CSV, or XML. And finally, we have our for each loop, which we're going to use in this case. So here we're going to have for each Salesforce contact, we're going to take it in this loop. So for each Salesforce contact, we're going to put the parameter we want. So it's going to be contact. For each Salesforce contact, here's what we're going to do. We're going to process all the items. And we're going to input those into Insightly, right? So we're going to go down once again, find our pre-built connector, and input and make that connection very quick. And here it is, Insightly. And this time we're going to create a contact. So once again, what we've done is we have, for each Salesforce contact, we have 10 different contacts. We're going to add each of those into Insightly, and we're going to make a loop. So for contact 1, do this, for contact 2, do this, for contact 3, do this, and so on. So we have our integration construct made. Now what we want to do is actually map the different fields. So when I say fields, it would be salutation, first name, last name. And you can imagine there could be dozens and dozens and hundreds of these fields. And some of those fields don't exactly match up. So that can take a lot of time going to each different field for each different connector and making sure all that lines up, right? And so that's what we've done to make this tooling to automate those different tasks. So if we look, we have the AI logic and the algorithm working in the background. And that's what this IBM Lightbulb is doing. So we can view suggestions that the AI algorithm has generated to use the auto mapping feature. So a couple things are happening in the background here as soon as we click View Suggestions. The AI algorithm is determining that the level of confidence between the fields of the former CRM and the latter CRM. So if the fields properly line up, like for instance, maybe the first name field in Salesforce is identical to the first name field in Insightly, that's when the auto map feature will automatically put that parameter in that field because they're identical, right? Or they're at a high level of confidence there. And we can see that there are several levels of high confidence here. 23. So we can go down and scroll. I'm going to go ahead and delete these two parameters because we'll talk about them in a second. And we can click apply. And so now all levels with a high level of confidence are auto-mapped. Now we can take a look at maybe a field that had multiple fields with a lower confidence. So we can click this example. And here we can see that there are multiple suggested mappings. The AI was able to determine multiple different fields here that could work for our line item, whether that be other zip postal code or other street. You can see this is a high level of confidence, and here we got a little bit lower level of confidence with 72%. So for this instance, the mapping wasn't able to automatically connect, right? We can click this other zip postal code that has the lower level of confidence here, and the AI and machine learning algorithm will automatically learn from the different path we've taken. And so for next time when we're building any integration and we get a field that says other address postcode, the tooling will be able to automatically sync up the other zip postal code and add that into the high level of confidence that we saw before. This is actually what happened when I clicked View Suggestions. It automatically was able to add the other zip postal code. I had to switch it back for the instances of this demo because I've already done it before. But you can see that it's able to automatically link as soon as you are able to give the option you want to choose. So another thing I wanted to demonstrate here is data transformation. So let's go ahead and click Assistant Name. For this instance, let's say in Salesforce, the assistant name was formatted differently than it would be in Sightly. In Salesforce, let's say the assistant name is fully listed out. For example, Salesforce, their full name is John Smith, where in Sightly, we want that first name to be abbreviated with just a J, so it'd be J Smith, right? How would we do that with this tool? Well, normally when making integrations, we'd have to create a bit of code to transform that data. We have to manually enter, hey, for each name, we want to, truncate that and add a period. For this low-code tooling, we're able to make that so much easier, and we'll be able to do that within the functionality. So we can just click on wherever we want to create the transformation. So we can go on Assistant Name and then Generate Transformation. So instead of making that detailed Java code, we are going to give examples of what we want the transformation to look like. So we'll give examples of how it will look like in Salesforce, and then we'll give examples of how we want it to look like in Sightly. So I don't know about you guys, but I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan here. So we're going to go ahead and add 5 of my top Lord of the Rings characters. Hopefully I can name off 5 hobbits, but we'll see what happens. We'll start with my main man, Frodo Baggins. F. Baggins. And there, I have my 5 examples of how we want the data transformation to look like. Unfortunately, I couldn't remember 5 names of hobbits, so I had to add Gandalf the Grey, but hopefully you'll let me slide on this one. So we'll generate transformation. And here we have the bit of code on how we would have coded this transformation, but the tool is able to generate that for us. We'll insert transformation. And there we have all the different fields we want mapped, and we are good to go. So let's say, in this case, Javier has finally built his flow. He's connected with Salesforce and Insightly, and he has all the mapping wired, and he's happy with it due to the AI-powered mapping assist. And now he wants to finally get this API up and running and test it in the flow and see if it works. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and turn our API on. We're going to the test functionality. So luckily enough for Javier doesn't have to go to another site or use another product to actually test this API. We have built-in test functionality right within the App Connected Designer. So he doesn't have to stray far away. He can just do a couple tabs and find his testing solution. So we'll go ahead and go down to try it. This will show you an example of what an API call would look like and how that would be formatted. We can just simply press generate, and we'll have all the different parameters listed for us. You might recognize that this is what the request tab looked like when we were first building our API. So let's go ahead and send. When we click send, it's like we're calling the API, and we're seeing what the output would be. And voila, we got our response, which is that contact ID. Doesn't necessarily mean too much in this case. It just means our API and our integration flow worked how I wanted it to. And the Insightly contacts should have been carried over from Salesforce. So we'll go to contacts here. We can look. So this was the original list of contacts that were in Insightly previously. You can see lots of different names here. We have my name, my full first name. My mom would be happy. That's what she calls me. And then we can refresh this to see if a couple contacts carried over. And we can see that they did. So we have Javier Lopez, the man himself. His contact was carried over from Salesforce. And then we have Mitch Steinsberger, myself, that was carried over from Salesforce as well. So we know that when we called our integration, everything worked and the Salesforce contacts were successfully synced from Salesforce to Insightly. And that concludes the demo portion for today. So in summary, from a high level, what we did today was we assisted Javier in integrating his two different CRM systems. We moved contacts from Salesforce and then Insightly CRM after his company made the acquisition, right? And we did this all with low-code tooling in the IBM Cloud Pak for integration. We were able to leverage AI-powered assist to use AI, to use machine learning to automate this process and automate mapping in particular. If the fields from the previous system to the latter system were very close, we were able to auto map these features and these line items. If they weren't an identical match, we were able to generate recommendations to match those. Finally, whenever we built our integration flow, we called our API and verified that the API actually worked, and contacts from Salesforce were in Insightly, and we can view them from the Insightly window. A few benefits of AI-powered mapping assist is the nature of it being a low-code integration tool. So because there's a low-code integration tool, you don't necessarily have to be a Java developer to make and build these integrations. We do have integration tooling for complex integrations if you want to get in the weeds, but you don't have to be, right? You can be a line of business user, or you can be a citizen integrator just trying to complete a business function, just like Javier. You're also able to reduce time with the low-code tooling and AI-powered mapping assist. Like we said initially, mapping takes a long time, coding takes a long time, and you can automate these features with this low-code Cloud Pak for integration. And also, something we talked about a bit, but the pre-built connectors saves you all the time from having to get in the weeds and building out something to link those two flows. You can just drag and drop connectors into your integration and you're done in Flash. And finally, eliminate manual errors. By automating these mappings, you can eliminate a lot of manual errors in the process. So thanks for tuning in into this demo. It was a pleasure demoing the Cloud Pak for integration and our AI-powered mapping assist. Can't wait to talk to you next time on Demos with Mitch. Thanks again.